everybody, and welcome back to The Lost Planeswalker. You are here with me, Jesse, The Lost Planeswalker, and I'm so excited to bring you Edward Kenway from the Assassin's Creed set. This was the first Assassin's Creed game I played, and I fell in love with the series because of that. Edward here is such a strong card, and I just was so inspired to build a deck around it, and I wanted to show you all off because it might not be the most powerful, but it uses a ton of the new cards, and I think really fulfills the Assassin's Creed theme. So if that's what you're looking for, here you go. So Edward here is going to be split up into three main categories. First off, we're going to be looking at ways to tap down our creatures every turn in order to make the maximum number of treasure tokens, whether that's great abilities that are going to help benefit us, or just ways to tap it down to maximize mana generation. There you go. Secondly, we're going to be looking at vehicles and what some great ones are to play in this deck. And then third, we're going to be looking at assassin makers, cool assassins, and assassins throughout this set, and some from Magic's history. And of course, at the end, we have some cool stuff that's going to wrap it all up. So diving right in, we're going to be looking at all those ways to tap creatures. So the first one I have here is tapping big for big benefits. So we have Burned at the Stake, Opposition, and Shared Discovery. Burned at the Stake is 2 red sorcery. As an additional cost to cast Burn at the Stake, tap any number of untapped creatures you control. Burn at the Stake deals damage to target creature or player equal to 3 times the number of creatures tapped this way. So not only are you going to be generating a ton of mana having Edward out on the board by tapping all your creatures, but you could potentially just knock somebody out of the game so easily with this card. Triple damage based on the number of things you tap is nothing to scoff at, and you can also point this at a creature. So if you have a creature that's a real big pest, you can just kill that or just player removal. Opposition, one of my favorite enchantments. We just got a reprint of it in Dominaria Remastered, but tap an untapped creature you control, tap target artifact, creature, or land. A great way to tap down your opponent's board of pesky things that maybe you don't want to have block your stuff, or you don't want to have come back at you. And then Shared Discovery, a single blue sorcery that says, as an additional cost to cast it, tap 4 untapped creatures you control, draw 3. So it's not quite an Ancestral Recall because you have to tap 4 creatures, but it's an Ancestral Recall, which I didn't know this card existed, but I might put this in more blue decks because there's a lot of the times I don't want to block with those little blue creatures I have because they give me some benefit. So if I can Ancestral Recall off of just tapping them, I'm going to do it. So this was a very cool card I discovered while building this deck. Next up, we have outlets for making treasures by either tapping down artifacts or creatures we control to gain some sort of benefits. So we have Gold Fury Strider, Honeymoon Hearse, and Moth Dust Changeling. Gold Fury Strider, 4 and a red, artifact creature golem with trample, tap 2 untapped artifacts and or creatures you control. Target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Very cool way to just buff up one creature insanely big. Honeymoon Hearse, 2 and a red, artifact vehicle trample, tap 2 untapped creatures you control. Honeymoon Hearse becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. You can just do this a bunch of times if you need to, and this gets big as well. Would be a good thing to pair with Gold Fury Strider, especially because this has trample. Then Moth Duster Changeling, single blue, creature shapeshifter changeling. Tap an untapped creature you control. This gains flying until end of turn. This is such a good card because we can just make sure every creature is tapped, abusing this ability. Very, very powerful. So then, last category we're going to look at for here is tap for mana. A bunch of great ways we can tap for mana using Energy Tap, Relic of Legends, and Springleaf Drum. So Energy Tap is a card I discovered years ago, and it makes more sense when you look at how the game used to work. So for a single blue sorcery, tap target creature you control, add an amount of colorless mana equal to that creature's casting cost to your mana pool. This was a good card back in the day when this came out, but what made it hard was because there was mana burn, so any mana you kind of had left over, I think, dealt damage to you. Just like mana drain, that could potentially deal a ton of damage to you, but with updated rulings, this is sick. For a single blue, just tap Edward and generate an extra 4 mana. Great card, especially if you're playing some of these bigger creatures with bigger casting costs. Some of these vehicles as well are pretty big, so if you don't want to swing in with it because it might die, just make it an artifact creature and then just tap it for a ton of mana. Relic of Legends and Springleaf Drum are staples. Relic of Legends here, 3 artifact, tap to add 1 mana of any color. Tap an untapped legendary creature to add 1 mana of any color. This is such a good card. We have so many legendary creatures in this deck that it's very, very powerful here, so I decided to add it. And then lastly, Springleaf Drum, single, generic mana, artifact, tap an untapped creature, add 1 mana of any one color. So the rest of those tap all those creature cards we have here is Explosive, Singularity, Holdout Settlement, Scene of the Crime, Sunshot Militia, Survivor's Encampment, and Telethopter. So next up, we're going to dive right into giant boat vehicles or other really cool vehicle cards. But before we do so, I just want to say, please consider subscribing to my channel. It would mean the world to me. So thank you. So we're going to look at some boat vehicles here. And forgive me if I say this first one wrong. Adrastea, Jackdaw, and the Indomitable. So the Adrastea here is 3 generic legendary artifact vehicle with Island Walk, which is super cool. Didn't expect to see that on a card. But whenever this attacks, if an assassin crewed it this turn, draw a card. This becomes an assassin in addition to its other types until end of turn. Sick. For a single power, we can crew this, and if we crew it with a assassin, it becomes an assassin, and then all the great benefits we get from attacking with assassins is passed on to this. Then we have the Jackdaw, which is just so good. For 1 blue and a red legendary artifact vehicle, when the Jackdaw deals combat damage to a player, you may discard your hand. If you do, draw a card for each artifact you control. Crew 3. Just pair this with our commander. Say we have 10 treasure tokens, because that's not unreasonable. Just draw 10 cards, discard your hand when you hit with this. Oh my gosh. This is insane. This vehicle is only like a couple dollars right now, and it should be more, but people just don't tend to play vehicles, so oh well. And then we have the Indomitable, 2 blue legendary artifact vehicle with trample. When a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Crew for 3, and you may cast the Indomitable from your graveyard as long as you control 3 or more tapped pirates and or vehicle. Well, there are some pirates in this deck, but we have a lot of vehicles, so let's look at the rest of them here with Imposter Mech, Nautiloid Ship, Reaver Titan, Reckoner, Bankbuster, Sky Sovereign Council Flagship, Smuggler's Copter, Thunderhawk Gunship, Unlicensed Hearse, Weatherlight, and the Weatherlight Complete. So next up here, we're going to look at some assassins, starting out with some Assassin Lords. We got some really cool Assassin Lords from Assassin's Creed I didn't really expect to get. Then we have Achilles, Davenport, Arno, Doran, and Roshan Hidden Magister. So Achilles here, 2 blue-black legendary creature human assassin with free running. So if you dealt damage this turn, you can cast it for its free running cost of a blue and a black. This has menace, and other assassins you control get +1/+1. Pretty simple lord right there. Arno Durian, 2 black-red, Death Touch. Other assassins you control get +2/+0, and it has Disguise for black and a red. And what I love about this is because it's Disguise, you can turn it face up any time for its Disguise cost and just buff up your whole board, so making combat really complicated. And then Roshan Hidden Magister, 3 and a black legendary creature human assassin with other creatures you control are assassins in addition to their other types. The same is true for creature spells you control and creature cards you own that aren't on the battlefield. Face down creatures you control have menace, and whenever a permanent you control is turned face up, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Not as many cards flipping straight up. We do have a Disguise card here with Arno, but just making everything an assassin is incredible, because most of our stuff is, but this turns all of our artifact vehicles instantly into assassins, so that's great. So now I want to look at assassin makers, ways we can make assassin tokens pretty easily. So starting out, we have Black Market Connections, Origins of the Hidden Ones, and Rooftop Bypass. Black Market Connections, 2 and a black enchantment. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, choose 1 or more. Sell Contraband, create a treasure token, lose 1 life. Buy Information, draw a card, and lose 2 life. Or hire a Mercenary, create a 3/2 colorless shapeshifter creature token with Changeling. So it's an assassin, and you lose 3 life. Origins of the Hidden One is a saga for 3 and a red. 1, Origin of the Hidden One deals 4 damage to any target, which that's pretty nice, honestly. 2, create 2 1/1 black assassin creature tokens with menace. Great. Then for 3, whenever an assassin you control attacks this turn, create a 1/1 black assassin creature token with menace that's tapped and attacking. Great way to put a ton of assassins onto the board. Then we have Rooftop Bypass for a single generic blue and black enchantment. Whenever 1 or more non-token creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a 1/1 black assassin creature token with menace. So we're only going to be ever creating a couple of these during the entire game, but they surely will add up. Lastly here, we're going to look at some really cool assassins that I thought kind of stood out above the rest, especially in this deck, I should say. So we have Adawal, Breaker of Chains, Lydia Frey, and Shojun. So Adawal, Breaker of Chains is 1 blue-black legendary creature human assassin pirate. When it enters battlefield, reveal the top 6 cards of your library. Put an assassin, pirate, or vehicle card from among them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Then whenever a vehicle you control deals combat damage to a player, you may return this from your graveyard to your hand. It's really not that expensive, so this seems like a very cool card to block with, cast it, get more things into your hand, and just go over and over again. Lydia Frey is 2 hybrid blue-black legendary creature human assassin with it can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater. Then at the beginning of your end step, surveil X, where X is the number of tapped assassins you control. Our entire goal is to tap as many assassins as possible, so surveilling, putting a ton of counters on this creature is right where we want to be, making this a huge threat. Then, Xiao Jun, 1 blue-red legendary creature human assassin with Leap Strike as long as it's your turn. This is flying in first strike. And Rope Dart, tap 2 untapped artifacts you control. This deals 1 damage to each opponent. At some point, we're going to have so many treasure, we're not going to know what to do with them, so Xiao Jun here is going to be able to possibly end the game by just tapping all of our treasure and knocking out all of our opponents. So I'm going to read through the rest of those assassins that I think you should include, most of them from this new set. So be kind to me because I have not played a lot of the newer games, and some of these are not as easy for me as I wish they were. So we have Assassin Initiate, Basim Ishak, Big Game Hunter, Brotherhood Spy, Desmond Miles, Ezio Blade of Vengeance, Hook Blade Veteran, Mary Reed and Anne Bonny, Massacre Girl Known Killer, Merciless Harlequin, Poison Blade Mentor, and Royal Assassin. And then lastly here, we got some good stuff, and the cards I want to talk about from the good stuff are some really cool equipment we got with this set. So we have Excalibur, Sword of Eden, Hidden Blade, and the Animus. Excalibur, Sword of Eden is 12 generic legendary artifact equipment. With this spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total mana value of historic permanents you control. So artifacts, legendaries, and sagas are all historic. So this is going to be cast for much, much cheaper. But equipped creature gets plus 10, plus 0, and has vigilance. But we can only equip it to legendary creatures. So obviously there are a ton of legendaries in this deck. We want to be playing this sword. This is incredible. Plus 10, plus 0, and vigilance is nothing to scoff at. I mean, this equipped with a way that you can't block just can end games so easily in Commander. Then we have Hidden Blade, personally one of my favorites, especially because of its mixture of abilities here. But 2, Artifact Equipment Flash. When this enters, attach it to a target creature you control. If that creature is an assassin, it gains a death touch until end of turn. A equipped creature gets plus 1, plus 0, and has First Strike, equipped for 2. So notably here, I want to make it a well-known point. First Strike and Death Touch are one of the best combos you can ever play, because obviously, because you get to attack first and deal damage with Death Touch, you get to kill whatever creature is blocking your stuff. So you're going to put this on a threat that your opponents are going to want to block, but they can't because their creatures are just going to die because of it. And then the Animus, 2 legendary artifact. At the beginning of your end step, exile up to 1 target legendary creature from a graveyard with a memory counter on it. Tap it until your next turn. Target legendary creature you control becomes a copy of target creature card in exile with a memory counter on it. Activate only as a sorcery. So this is a great way we can put stuff onto this, get those legendary creatures back onto the battlefield, either to use their abilities, and we can kind of pick from a number of them. So this is a really cool way, whether we want to make it our commander or any of these other legendary assassins from this set. I think that the Animus is going to be very powerful, especially outside of Assassin's Creed. So the other good stuff cards here we have are Auditor Ambush, Brotherhood Regalia, Cathartic Reunion, Coastal Piracy, Cover of Darkness, Crystal Skull, Isu Spyglass, Don Andres, the Renegade, Fatal Push, Go for the Throat, Murder, Propaganda, Restart Sequence, Terminate, and the Revelations of Ezio. Now, I just would like to say, as all of my Commander decks, I don't build out the land base because that can vary very much depending on how much money you have to put towards this or what you might already own. In addition, if you want to check out the Maybe board, I included a ton of other cards that all care about tapping creatures to activate his first ability. I think there's 17 or so, but I just included the ones I thought were the best into this deck. And with that, I would just like to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was so much fun to build this deck. There were so many assassins I had never seen before, and to just learn about them through building this deck was super cool. And I think this is a really strong deck. Even though it's mainly all Assassin's Creed cards, I think we got some really, really powerful cards, some really great reprints, and honestly, it's a set that's worth looking into because whether or not people buy it, some of these cards could become very expensive if the quantity of them out there is pretty low. So let me know in the comments down below what you think. But if you could please leave a like, share this video with a friend, and subscribe. That would mean the world to me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. In today's Scryfall card of the day is On Flavor with Swashbuckling. The Priest of the Brazen Coalition are the descendants of those displaced by the Legion of Dusk, and they are eager for vengeance. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you later, Planeswalkers.